Thanks for joining me, everybody. This is Biology E Lesson Day 1, Factors that Influence Protein Shape. If you remember, we actually started our discussion of proteins way back during the first semester, during Chapter 2, the chapter that covered macromolecules. There were 4 macromolecules. Protein was one of them. Do you remember the other 3? Carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acids. Well, this 9 weeks, we've spent time looking at how nucleic acids like DNA and RNA direct the cell to build the protein. We've most recently looked at what happens when that DNA is mutated in some way, how the gene expression is changed, and what are some of the human genetic disorders that can occur. With the ECA approaching, what we thought we would do is just to connect the 2 points. Not only does amino acid sequence influence the shape of the protein, but there were other factors that influence it also, and that is what we learned in Chapter 2. So this particular lesson is trying to connect both the first semester with the second semester. You're going to need to print this document, Factors that Affect Protein Shape. Everyone will need to download it. Not everyone needs to print it, like I just said. I apologize for that. But everyone will need to download it. The codon wheel, you may or may not need to download. Do you still have a copy in your notes? Can you Google and find the codon wheel? You can find it in your textbook as well. The assignment is due on Monday, March 10th. And you have a couple of options about how to submit the assignment once you are finished. You can, of course, save it to your computer and then upload it as an attached file. Or the second option is if you've chosen to print the document and complete it by hand, just carry it in and give it to your teacher. When are we available to help you outside of the day, the regular classroom day? We all should have our office hours posted, and your family should have received an email with them posted in there as well. My office hours are listed here. You'll just need to scroll through the assignment for each teacher to find your own. If you're ready, let's click on this link and get started. Factors that influence protein shape. Protein shape is critical. It's absolutely critical to how structure determines function. The shape of that protein is critical to how the protein is going to function. In Chapter 2, when we were studying proteins and enzymes, we discussed the substrate shape and the active site. If you recall, the active site is that place on the enzyme, a special type of protein, that must match the reactant, that must match the substrate perfectly so that they fit together, forming what's called an enzyme-substrate complex. If that complex doesn't form, then the enzyme won't function as it's supposed to. The reaction won't go forward in the way that it's supposed to, and a cellular process is probably going to be interrupted in some way. The lesson we have you looking at is considering how the shape is influenced, both by amino acid sequence and by other external factors. So let's download this. Let's get to the document that you need, Factors that Affect Protein Shape. And let's get that opened up. Here's the document. Below is the mRNA sequence for beef insulin. You've got it right here. It's rather lengthy, and we couldn't get it to fit on a single line, so we had to break it up over 3 lines. You need to find a codon wheel. Whether you download it from the document off the assignment page, you look it up in your textbook on page 367, or you just Google for it. You're going to need a codon wheel. Looking at this polypeptide, it is almost complete, but we left out a few of the amino acids. We didn't think that you needed to fill in all of the amino acids, so we filled most of them in for you. But we thought a review of how to use the codon wheel was appropriate. So let's do it. Here is the first codon, AUG. When you look it up on the codon wheel, you find that it codes for the amino acid methionine. The second codon, the second triplet, GUC, look it up on the codon wheel, and you will need to record the amino acid associated with it. The third amino acid in this polypeptide is coded by the sequence AAU. You need to continue moving through the polypeptide, moving through these triplets, these codons, one codon at a time, until you find the codon that's associated with this amino acid. Look that codon up on the codon wheel, record the abbreviation here. Continue moving one codon at a time, one triplet at a time, count them off, find the appropriate codon for this amino acid, and then record the abbreviation for the amino acid. Once you have recorded all 5 amino acids, you have a completed polypeptide chain. On the second page of the document, you'll find the answers, the check for learning, the check for understanding. You have 4 questions. A couple of them include mutations. What happens to the shape of the protein if the mRNA sequence changes? The 5th question deals with that connecting piece to Chapter 2. What are the other factors? In addition to amino acid sequence, what are the other factors that influence protein shape? You'll need to turn to page 53 in your book. You certainly can Google for factors that affect the shape of the protein, or you can watch this YouTube video if you need to, and then just quick list them here. They should be reviewed. I think once you see them, you'll be reminded, oh yeah, I remember talking about that. There's another component to what influences the protein shape. You can find that on page 43 and 44. Read that, complete this question, and your lesson is finished. So what do we do now that your lesson is finished? Remember, you have 2 options about submission. You can either upload your saved file, that was option number 1, and to do that, let's scroll down a little bit. Assignment submission, attach file. You'll click Browse My Computer, navigate your way to the saved file, upload it, and then let's not forget to click Submit. Your other option is, of course, just to print the document by hand and then complete it and carry it into your classroom teacher. Protein shape is critical to protein function, and there are several factors that influence its shape, and we hope that this lesson helps you recall what some of those factors are, and then see also how that connects to the amino acid sequence and how that affects its shape as well. Thank you for joining us on the Biology E-Lesson Day 1, and have a great day.